They say there is a kind of silence that is not an absence, but rather a deep, profound listening. It is a state of being in which, if you still your own inner turmoil enough, you can begin to hear the oldest, most persistent of all voices. It is not the voice of the restless sea, nor the patient murmur of the ancient earth. It is the voice of the air itself in motion, the voice of the wind. Since the dawn of time, humanity has stood on open plains and windswept cliffs, feeling this invisible force not merely as weather, but as a presence, a living entity. The wind is the literal breath of the world, the respiration of something vast and primordial that connects us all. It does not simply pass by us. It carries within its current the very echoes of every place it has traveled. It brings the mineral scent of a distant mountain range after a storm, the microscopic pollen of a flowering valley thousands of miles away, the bone-dry heat of a desert where great civilizations have risen and turned to dust. Every single breeze is a meticulously detailed travelogue, an epic story told not in words, but in pure, unadulterated sensation. Imagine the wind, for a moment, not as empty air, but as a fluid, ethereal consciousness, an invisible planetary library that stores the collective memory of the world. In the ancient world, the Greeks understood this power, giving it names and faces. The Anemoi, 4 divine brothers with distinct, often volatile temperaments, capable of granting a ship safe passage or of gleefully tearing its sails to shreds. To the Japanese, a great wind could be a kamikaze, a divine intervention. In countless cultures, the air was the realm of spirits, a medium for magic, a carrier of prophecies and omens. The wind was destiny. It was untamable power. It was the will of the cosmos made manifest. But there is a belief, far older and more intimate than these grand mythologies, a belief whispered only in the isolated, high-altitude valleys of the Whispering Peaks. There, the people who called themselves the Children of the Breath held a unique and profound conviction. They did not believe the wind was a messenger of the gods. They believed the wind was the collected souls of every living thing that had ever departed. Their entire cosmology was built upon this simple, elegant idea. The first cry of a newborn was a sacred inhalation, the borrowing of a single, unique portion of the world's great breath. And the final quiet sigh of the dying was the ultimate exhalation, the solemn returning of that soul, with all its experiences, its love, its sorrow, its wisdom, back into the great, invisible current that eternally envelops the planet. For them, death was not an ending, but a sacred fusion. Every individual life, with its grand triumphs and its quiet heartbreaks, became a new and permanent note in the endless symphony of the wind. A gentle, warm summer breeze that made the tall grasses dance was the lingering touch of 1,000 contented souls. A sudden, cold gust of wind in the deep of autumn was the collective lament of hearts broken by time and loss. And a devastating hurricane, that was the raw, untempered fury of countless tormented spirits, a physical scream from souls who had not found their peace in the great beyond. This belief gave birth to their most sacred legend, the story of Elara, not the Elara of the river, but another, whose destiny was irrevocably woven into the fabric of the air itself. This Elara was a young woman known for her almost supernatural hearing and a profoundly contemplative spirit. Her beloved, a brave young hunter named Kael, often joked that she didn't just hear the world, she heard its soul breathing. He would watch, mesmerized, as she'd tilt her head, a faint smile on her lips, and tell him of a storm still a day's journey away, or of a herd of deer moving in the far valley, all based on the subtle changes in the wind's ancient song. One day, Kael left to hunt on the treacherous higher slopes, a place of jagged rock and unpredictable currents. A storm, black and violet, descended from the summit with an unnatural speed and violence. The mountain itself seemed to roar, and the wind howled with a grief-stricken fury that even the oldest elders had never before witnessed. Kael never returned. Elara's mourning was a silence as complete and as vast as the storm had been loud. She refused to accept that he had simply vanished. His soul, his vibrant essence, according to the deepest truths of her people, now rode the wind. Consumed by a grief that bordered on madness and a sliver of impossible hope, Elara resolved to perform the ritual of listening, an ancient and perilous rite that had not been attempted in generations. The legends warned that to truly listen was to risk losing one's own mind in the storm of countless other lives. But she did not care. In the dead of night, she ascended to the peak of the solitary echo, a sacred, barren place where the wind never, ever ceased. The very rocks around her were carved into weeping, hollow shapes by millennia of its constant, powerful caress. She sat upon the central stone, closed her eyes, and deliberately opened her soul to the gale's fury. At first, it was a purely physical torment, a deafening, crushing noise that threatened to tear the very breath from her lungs and hurl her into the abyss. But she held on, focusing her entire being on her memory of Kale, his laugh, the sound of his voice, the feeling of his hand in hers. Slowly, miraculously, a change occurred. The raw noise began to fracture, to resolve into layers. Beneath the deafening howl, she began to hear them. Voices. Not one, not a dozen, but thousands. Millions. An overwhelming, soul-shattering chorus of whispers, triumphant shouts, tender lullabies, bitter arguments, joyful laughter, and agonizing laments. She felt flashes of their lives, the terror of a soldier in his final moments, the profound peace of a mother holding her newborn, the quiet pride of a craftsman finishing his life's work. It was the totality of the human experience, a weight too great for any single soul to bear. She felt her own identity begin to dissolve, to fray at the edges, about to be consumed by the madness of it all when, piercing through the center of the chaos, she heard it. A single whisper, clear and pure as a crystal bell. It was Kale. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't say he loved her. His essence, his soul, imparted a single, urgent thought. Run. The next moment, the entire chorus of voices joined him, shifting from a chaotic symphony into a single piercing shriek of warning. Elara finally understood. The storm that took Kyle was no random act of nature. It was an omen. A greater fury, a wind of accumulated grief, was gathering in the high peaks, threatening to scour her entire village from the valley floor. She scrambled down the mountain, no longer a grieving girl, but a haunted prophetess, her eyes reflecting the echoes of 1,000,000 forgotten lives. She warned her people, who, seeing the terrifying truth in her transformed soul, listened without question. They abandoned their homes, taking refuge in the deep ancestral caves, just moments before an avalanche of pure wind and stone descended from the mountain, utterly erasing the place where their village had stood for centuries. Elara had saved them, but she was never the same. She could no longer silence the voices. The wind was now her constant companion, an unending stream of stories, secrets, and raw emotion. She became the sacred keeper of her people's memory, a living embodiment of how the past, carried on the inexorable wind of change, shapes and sometimes saves the future. Think of it. What is destiny, if not a series of winds that push us, often against our will, in unexpected directions? A sudden career change, the unforeseen end of a relationship, the impulsive decision to move to the other side of the world. Do we not refer to these as the winds of change? Perhaps this common phrase is more literal than we have ever imagined. Perhaps in every major decision we face, we are being subtly guided, nudged, and warned by the collected echoes of the experiences, the triumphs, and the tragic failures of countless souls who have walked these same paths before us. The next time you find yourself in a quiet place and a sudden gust of wind rattles the trees or whistles a lonely tune through the crack in your window, pause. Do not dismiss it as mere air. Listen with the intention of Elara. What do you feel in that moment? Is it a sudden, inexplicable shiver of melancholy? A fleeting wave of unprompted joy? A sharp, urgent sense that you need to do something? Perhaps it is not just your imagination. Perhaps you are feeling the faint echo of a story, the memory of a lost love reaching across time, the distant celebration of a long-forgotten victory, or a whispered, urgent warning from an ancestor you never knew you had. For the wind is never truly empty. It is always, always speaking.